People spend more time trying to figure out how to upgrade their electronics than they do how to upgrade themselves. Jesus believed one thing above all other things, that your life should be devoted to self-transformation. Most people don't have abundance. They don't think abundance is for them. Victims, man, they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of sympathy. You have to shift your story and then shift your behaviors at the same time, and the universe will tilt in your favor 100% of the time. The devil's gonna try to convince you that their story of your life of lack is more powerful than your story of a life of abundance.
Yeah, but you had money.
No, I didn't have money. I had no money. I had debt. I had a ton of debt.
You did it anyway.
So I don't really share it publicly. I'm gonna share it publicly now.
What it is, Brad Lee back again with another episode of Dropping Bombs. Today in the studio, folks, I got a real treat for you. Somebody that you may not have heard of, you may have, but probably not. The dude behind the dudes, a sales trainer extraordinaire, very successful, now an author of Keep Telling Yourself, Chad Sanschagrin. Welcome to the show, buddy.
What's happening, brother?
Now,
Good to be here.
What name is Sanschagrin?
Here's what's crazy. So Sanschagrin is a French-Canadian name. And what's interesting is I grew up with a single mother. Don't have a relationship with my father. And when I was about 13, I was like, man, I'm changing my last name because I'm not really a Sanschagrin. That's my father's name that I don't have. My mother's maiden name is Fleck, F-L-E-C-K. I'm not really a Fleck. Who am I? But my middle name is Everett, Chad Everett, E-V-E-R-T-T. And so like I said, I'm gonna change my name to Everett. Never had the courage to do it, never had the money to do it, but I always thought about it. So I get into this, I switch my mindset, I change my life around, I become, have the life I have now. And somebody says, you know what your last name means, don't you? I was like, no. They said it's Sans Chagrin, without chagrin, without remorse, without regret. That's a perfect name for you. So God always knows what he's doing. He gave me the name before I knew the meaning of the name, but that was the purpose of my name, Sanschagrin, without regret.
Is that why when people say, to my chagrin?
To my chagrin, to my regret.
Ah.
My regret.
Yeah.
So sans without, and then chagrin without regret. I was in France last week for a wedding, and no less than 6 or 7 times did people go, you know how important your last name is, right? And they said it so much better than I did. They said it with the whole French accent, the way it's meant to be said. I'm like, Sanschagrin. So I'm really glad I didn't change my name, but back then I didn't know what I didn't know, and now I know.
Parlez-vous français?
No, just the name.
Gotcha.
I barely speak English.
Folks, I've launched a lot of talent off this show. People that you've now heard of, they're wildly famous, all because I've platformed them. I think this guy's going to be no different. So get out your, not your checkbooks, but your notepads, folks, because I'm going to be walking through some questions for Mr. Chad Sanschagrin.
So good.
Now, you obviously, know sales because you have a big sales company called Cannonball.
Yeah.
And you haven't lost a client in how long?
9 years.
9 years. You got let's say 100 or so.
Yeah.
Companies that have not only found you, but engaged you and kept you for how long has it been going on?
9.5 years. Some of our clients been with us 9.5 years every week for 9.5 years. Yeah.
And it's all basically performance based.
Performance. Yeah. Mindset, tactical skills, sales, leadership, customer service. And then, with a twist of mindset and motivation.
Well, a twist or a base?
A base. Basically,
because again, I was going to say like most companies, because as you know, I used to train.
Yeah.
A lot of companies, they don't really value or understand the mindset space when in reality, if you ask me, that's the foundation.
Yeah. They won't hire. I don't believe most companies, 99% of companies will hire you if you tell them you're going to come in and work on the mindset, because most companies want you to train the position, not the person. They want you to coach the position, not the person. But you don't win unless you coach the person. There's a movie called Patch Adams with Robin Williams, and there's a line in the movie, and he says he's being tried by the medical board for practicing medicine different ways and really caring about the patient. And he said, here's what I've learned. If you treat the patient, you win some, you lose some. But if you treat the person, you win every time. And so the foundation of our company has always been that we're going to coach the person, not the position. But companies won't hire you if that's your philosophy. but it's the Trojan horse to get you in. The Trojan horse to get you in is I'm going to help make your salespeople better. I'm going to help get you a better ROI. I'm going to give you leadership skills, better leadership skills. But when we get in, what we do is we focus on the person. I want people to I want them to have better family lives. I want them to be a better husband, better son, better friends. I want them to feel healthier. And so we focus. Now we have to perform in the tactical skill. But man, if you invest in a person, not a position, that's God's calling. That's what we're here. We're here to contribute to the well-being of every human being we interact with. This is just my platform or my vehicle to do so. And then once you do it, they never leave, because there's a direct correlation, cause and effect, not just to sales increasing or their leadership, their turnover going down or whatever that might be, but their people feel better. And I don't think, and I'm probably the minority here, I don't think people ever leave companies because of money. I think people leave companies because they stop growing in those companies. But if I can, I don't think you'll ever leave a company that you feel you're getting better in, and you can correlate that company to me getting better. I think there's a different type of loyalty there.
I'm processing.
Process.
Yeah, because I mean, I see what you're saying, but I think people will leave a company because there's no money there. And usually there's no money there because they're not doing very well, and they're not doing very well because of what you're saying. Because
they don't have opportunities. And they don't have opportunities because they're not growing.
Yeah, but I don't think anyone's going to stay with a company long term just because they feel good. But, at the end of the day, they're not going to feel good very long losing.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's the difference. The difference is I'm not here to make you feel better. I'm here to help make you better. Most people want to play the role of making you feel better. I'm not concerned with making you feel better. I'm concerned with helping you become better, because if I become better, things get easier.
Yeah, and you'll make more money.
And I'll make more money.
Yeah, and that's why they're not letting you go, because it's to their chagrin.
Yeah,
people are leaving because of whatever reason, whether it's and there are some people that they see no path, they see no future there.
Agreed.
So they'll leave for that.
Sure.
But a lot of people will leave for money. Like I've had, inklings of leaving companies that I was working with, and I felt great. Like it was fun. I liked everybody there, but dude, they had no traffic. It was difficult to really make money. And all my friends were leaving and going to other companies and then saying, dude, I'm making 20 grand over here. So I left multiple sales organizations where I felt great, but the company, the money, it wasn't there.
So there's got to be so maybe there's got to be some financial. There's a study that says that $75,000 is the benchmark now. $75,000 the benchmark. That once you cross the $75,000 threshold, money becomes less important for the average American. $75,000, where they start sacrificing. They'll say, "Hey, I'm at $75,000. I'll give up some money for some fulfillment. I'll give up some money for some growth." But for me, I think the challenge, I think the opportunity we have is, I think that we have to figure out how to help people become better. Now, it's a choice. I can't make you better. You have to choose to become better on your own. But I'm gonna help you trip over the truth by that saying the way that you're operating now isn't serving you at your highest level. There are people spend more time trying to figure out how to upgrade their electronics than they do how to upgrade themselves. There are people that are still operating on a BlackBerry modem in an Apple world, and it's because they haven't figured out how to upgrade their selves like they do their technology. If I gave a keynote a couple weeks ago, I said I'll give $1,000 right now to anybody that can walk up and put a BlackBerry in my hand. How many BlackBerries do you think I got?
None.
Why?
They don't exist anymore.
Why don't they exist?
Because they're outdated.
Because they're outdated and obsolete. My biggest fear in life is becoming obsolete. Becoming obsolete in the eyes of my kids, becoming obsolete in the eyes of my employees, becoming obsolete so my life is committed to betterment. 2.0, betterment 3.0, 4.0.
Do you feel you might become obsolete with AI coming out?
I think that if I become obsolete with AI come out, it's because I didn't evolve. I'm going to have to figure it out. As a trainer, there's going to be companies that come in and say, you don't need trainers, you don't need performance, because we can do it all through AI now. We see it. And if I accept that, and I say, well, hell, it's not me. It's AI. What am I supposed to do? Blockbuster is out of business. Blockbuster is not out of business because of Netflix. Blockbuster is out of business because they didn't evolve. And so I'm going to have to figure out how to do that evolution. And if I stop trying to figure out what that evolution is, then yeah, of course I'm going to be obsolete. And the only person that's going to blame is me. It's my fault.
That would be true. I'm not too worried about AI, only because if AI starts doing what I do, well, then I'll start leveraging AI to do what I do better.
Yeah.
And I'd still sell it.
Yeah, that's right. The last person to get fired in any company is the best salesperson in the company.
Well, the last time some guy was on a show, he was talking about he was a truck driver and he switched because pretty soon there's going to be no truck drivers. They're all AI driven, freaking self-driving trucks. And I said, well, why wouldn't you just own the trucks?
Correct.
Because someone, even if they're driverless and you were driving, will evolve.
Yes, that's right.
Start figuring out how to own the trucks that are driving by themselves. Someone's got to hire the truck.
That's exactly
whether there's a driver or not. But that evolution. Now, you wrote a book called Keep Telling Yourself, Shift Your Story and Create a Life of Abundance.
Yeah.
Have you reached a life of abundance? Do you mean financially, or do you mean like just joy and happiness?
No, abundance in all things. Abundance in health, abundance in life, abundance in faith, abundance in money. I want abundance. I'm very faith driven. I'm driven by faith. And listen, Jesus believed one thing above all other things.
What?
That your life should be devoted to self-transformation. That's what he believed. That was the biggest. You can read, there's 20,000 biographies written about Jesus, or you would say Yahshua. And the number one belief he had and thought he had and what he spoke about was to dedicate your life to self-transformation. And so I want abundance in all things. That's not abundance in the sense of like, only I want abundance in financial. No, I want abundance in contribution. I want abundance in love. The challenge is most people don't have abundance. They don't think abundance is for them. They live this life of lack. They're operating in an operating system of fear as opposed to a life of abundance. So if you really want to be faithful, if you really want to drive faith, then you'll dedicate yourself to living a life of abundance, because everybody has their own faith and they believe what they want to believe. But I can't believe in a God that wants me to live a life of lack. Because when I contribute to abundance, think about this. My kids are 20 years old. I have 20-year-old twin daughters. And when I committed my life to abundance, and when I committed to my life to betterment and trying to become better, well, I can't be the same father I was to my kids when they were 2, when they're 20. I have to evolve. If I don't evolve, I will become obsolete. So I commit my life to this idea of abundance of strategy on how to be a father, abundance on love for my kids. Well, my kids are being raised by a better father today than I was 5 years ago, which means I'm changing their life, which means when they have kids, their kids are going to be raised by better mothers because I committed today to betterment. So for me, this is a journey that says I'm going to change the lives of people I never met because I committed to myself to become a better human being in all things and have a life of abundance.
How do you do that?
Well, first you start with the stories. And this is what's interesting, because I've listened and I've digested to almost every podcast. I don't know of a podcast yet that you've done that I haven't listened to. And you talk about this a lot. You talk about this a lot. And we all have some story. And that story creates a self-image. And that you will never outperform your self-image, ever. And so if your self-image is this story, you have this story that, for me, my story was, I was born not enough. I didn't have a mother. I didn't have a father. I didn't have a father I had a relationship with. We didn't have any money. I graduated high school with a 1.6 grade point average. I never went to college. I wasn't smart enough to go to college. And so this created this narrative in my life that I believed to be true. That shit wasn't true. It's just, I believed it to be true, which dictated how I saw myself, which dictated what I did, which dictated the outcomes of what I got. And so we see the life that we created, but we don't see ourselves as the author. If you want to shift your life, then see yourself as the author. You want to write a shitty story? Well, then you wrote that shitty story. You want to write a life of abundance? So you have to shift your story and then shift your behaviors at the same time, and the universe will tilt in your favor 100% of the time.
Wouldn't some people say that's just lying to yourself?
Lying to yourself? Well, you can think it's lying to yourself, but it's not. Your truth is, nobody has the corner on truth. So just because something's true to you doesn't actually make it true. So you have to continue to fight that critic in your head that tells you that, listen, the devil's coming for you. The devil's going to try to convince you that their story of your life of lack is more powerful than your story of a life of abundance. So is it true that I'm worthy of a life of abundance? Of course it is. My faith tells me I'm worthy of a life of abundance. So that's not lying to myself. The challenge is when I say this, when I say I'm worthy of a life of abundance, you know what people will chirp? Well, that's just ego. That's just ego.
Yeah, but that's not the lie part. The lie part is telling yourself a new story.
Yeah.
That could be a lie.
Yeah, it could be. But let me ask you this question, right? So there's 4 main questions in your life. There's 4 driving questions that dictate your stories, right? So when I tell myself a story, when the critic is in my head or I'm telling myself a story, the first question I ask is this: is it true? When I'm coaching somebody, I'll ask them the first question: is it true? Now, if I tell myself something long enough, I believe that to be true. So if I say, if I'm coaching you and your story is that, listen, I'm not cut out, it's not for me, like this success, I'm not worthy of it, I'm not going to get it, I'm not going to have it. And I said to you, is that true? I'm full of alibis, excuses, whatever. What do you think that person's going to say? If I say, hey, is that story true? What do you think they're going to say? Of course it's true. I just told you it's true. Well, they believe it to be true. So my second question is this: can you prove that story is 100% absolutely true? No. And the minute they say no, they start tripping over the truth. Okay, so let me get this right. 2 questions in. You created a story. You can't prove it to be 100% true. Third question: when you tell yourself that story, how does that make you feel? What makes me feel shitty, makes me feel weak, makes me feel less than, makes me feel whatever. Okay, let's recap. You tell yourself a story. You can't prove it to be true. And when you tell yourself that story, it makes you feel shitty, makes you feel less than, makes you feel helpless. Okay, 4th question. So who would you be without that story? Well, I'd be a lot more confident, more powerful. I'd have more opportunities. Okay, so now this is what's called the work. Let's do the work. If you can tell yourself a story that you can't prove to be 100% true, and it makes you feel like shit, and without that story, you'd feel so much more better. You feel more better, powerful, more worthy. If you can create that story, can't you create a story that makes you feel powerful? Why do you choose to create stories? So neither one do I know to be true. But one's going to drive me to do shitty behaviors and get shitty results. One's going to drive me to do better behaviors and have more opportunities. You just have to choose the story. I don't know. You're right. I don't know either one to be true. So if you're going to make up some shit that puts you in the right direction.
Yeah, make up some good shit.
Make up some good shit. You're making it up. One's going to drive you to abundance. That's all I've done, is I just made up good shit that got my ass off the couch, that made me look in the mirror and say, hey, I love that guy. I'm gonna follow that guy.
So what was it that you made up?
I made up a story that said, because I didn't have a father, because my father left us, because my father never showed up, because I didn't have this, that all the luck, all the skill, all the things that were happening for other people, they got it because they had it and I didn't. I didn't even realize.
Did you believe that?
Huh?
Did you believe that?
100%.
So that was your belief system.
That was my belief system, 100%. It was so jaded. And here's what's interesting. When I was 40 years old.
But didn't you use logic? Like logically, how would that be true?
I didn't use logic because my logic was overtaken by emotion because I didn't have any emotional intelligence. I didn't have any emotional regulation. I just felt a certain way and I was like, oh, well, this shit. And listen, being a victim.
I was going to say, that's victim mentality is what you're describing.
Yeah, and it gives you, listen, victims, man, they get a lot of attention. They get a lot of sympathy. They get a lot of love. Oh, so bad for you. I feel, let me cuddle you. Let me hold you.
You didn't have a mama.
Right, which only does what? Makes you feel like, here's my cause and effect. When I'm a victim, I get this. I don't get the abundance. I don't get this, but I get the sympathy.
Well, dude, you want to hear something sad? My mom died before I was born. And you could have used that as a what? I was joking.
Oh, you're such a jackass.
Like, how can your mom die before you're born?
Oh yeah, I didn't get that. My mom died before I was born. Okay, yeah, that's good. That was a dropping bombs on yourself.
Yeah, listen, I used to have the stories and the narratives. I kind of did very similar to what you're doing. Again, I call it The Hard Way. That's my book, The Hard Way.
Yeah.
And it's really lessons I learned the hard way. It's very similar to what you're talking about. And I'm agreeing with everything you say. I want people, I'm playing devil's advocate so people, because I know what people are thinking.
Yeah.
You know, so you just want us to lie to ourselves. Well, dude, I always tell people when they ask me that, well, it's not necessarily lying to yourself, dude. It's called inventing.
That's right.
Or reinventing or recreating.
Reframing.
Yeah, or reframing. Like, dude, at the end of the day, you hit it on the head. You know, you don't know what you're saying is true because it technically isn't true.
Right.
You're not limited because you didn't have a dad.
That's right.
Who gives a shit?
That's exactly right.
You know, well, it's easy for you to say you had a dad. Dude, my dad was there, but he wasn't there.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Who cares? That's
It
right.
it doesn't limit you. Yes, it's a disadvantage. Yeah, you probably coulda, shoulda, woulda, but you didn't. So
That's
now
right.
what? Are
I'm
you
here.
stuck? If you believe you're stuck, dude, you're stuck.
You're stuck. Yeah. Well, here's what's crazy. I'm 50 now. So I was 45. I go to my grandfather's funeral, my father's father. I haven't seen my father since I was 5 years old. He's at the funeral. I walk in.
Is he tall?
He's tall, big guy. Walk in. He acted like he just saw me yesterday. Now it's my grandfather's funeral. I'm not going to cause a scene. I'm with my brother. I go home and I call my mother, who I have an amazing relationship with, who's an amazing human being. I said, hey, I saw Dad. She goes, oh, how was it? Now she, my existence, had never uttered a negative word about this guy, not once, ever. And I said, he wasn't what I thought. She goes, well, what do you think? And I said, well, I thought he was this crazy man who, there was an incident, and I won't go into the book, but an incident that happened when I was a kid, and it dictated how I saw my father. And I said, he was nothing like I thought. I'm saying he didn't. And she said, what do you think? And I said, well, remember, you guys left because you guys got divorced because this happened. She goes, yeah, that never happened. I said, what are you talking about? She said, that story you just told yourself, that shit never happened. We were 19 when we got married. We had 3 kids by 21, 22. I moved to Maryland. We were living in New York. I moved to Maryland because I needed to be around my family. None of that shit you think happened the way it happened. And I said, well, that simply can't be true, Mom. You're lying. She goes, I'm not lying. I was there. She said, you invented that story. Holy shit, wait a minute. You're telling me my entire existence from the moment he left to the time I'm 45 was all built on something that never happened. She said, yes, it never happened. See, the thing is, we never go back and fact check our truths. We just believe it to be true. And then we believe it to be true. And then we find supporting evidence to make it more true. And so this story, like my whole existence was like, what? Like, she said, Chad, that's a story you must have created that you told yourself over and over, but that never happened. And I was like dumbfounded. I was dumbfounded that my life had been dictated by a story a 5-year-old kid created. And at one time, did I ever have the intelligence or the knowledge to go back and fact check whether it's true or not? Now, I can't look at the life I have now and shit on the way that I got it. I can't like say, oh, I wish I would redo that, because let's say I grow up with the father. Let's say my father never leaves. I'm not sitting here today.
Theoretically,
I'm not the father I am to my children. If my father's there, I was an absolute train wreck. But the one thing I always knew I wanted to be from the 17 years old was I was going to be a father, and I was going to be a really good father, and I was going to be. And so that never happens theoretically if I grew up in that situation. So we can't curse the path that got us to the life that we love. So all those things happen for a reason, and it all happened to put me here today, to give me the opportunities I have. So for me, I can't regret it, but man, I wish I would have known what I would have known.
Do you think that's kind of just a justification, a way to justify?
Yeah.
See, because I've heard people say that before. Like if that didn't happen, well, then I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
How do you know? You don't.
I don't.
So again,
I don't.
Is it a problem for someone to be angry? Like, is it okay to be angry?
Well,
like if I saw my dad and I'd be like, dude, you're a piece of shit. Why wouldn't you reach out to me?
Yeah.
Or should they say, well, I should just be thankful because I wouldn't be here if he did.
Well,
that's not true. You could have been way better
It could have been. Yeah, sure.
So maybe
so it could be justification for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But it's that whole question though is the main question in life. The number one question that most people struggle with is it serving me?
That's what they should be asking.
Is it serving me? Is it being angry at my father serving me at my very highest level? Because if it's not, don't do that shit.
Yeah, because again, you've elevated the value of yourself to where it's like, now it's about me. It's not about my dad.
That's exactly
right. And that's why when you said you walked in and I was picturing it and you said, I could have caused a scene, but I was at my grandpa. My question would be, why would you want to?
Yeah.
Like you ain't seen him for 45 years. Why wouldn't you go give him a hug and be like, Dad, what the fuck? We got a lot of catching up to do. Yeah. And then he'd be like, man, he's not even mad at me. Because he already knows you probably are and should be.
Yeah.
Which is probably why he acted like he's never been gone.
Yeah. The biggest weight
deep down, dude, he probably feels shitty. You just don't know it.
Agreed. And the biggest weight, let me tell you, the biggest weight I ever put down in my life was the weight of the anger towards a man I never knew. And so at the end of the day, is it serving me? And that's where the maturity of my life has changed is in that moment, in that pause, in the pause of choice. And we talked about this off air. The poise, everything is about choice. And so everything I do is cause and effect. I did this, which caused this, and the effect is that. The choice. Before I drink the bourbon, is this serving me at my very highest level? Is the conversation with my father serving my very highest level? I've learned to understand in that pause is going to determine the outcome of my life. And so for me, it's not serving me to be angry anymore. It's not serving me. It's not serving me in any way, shape, or form to be angry at a man that I don't know. It's not serving me in my life to have toxic people. And so if you can ask yourself this question, is this serving you at your very highest level? And you can answer that question, your choices will be completely different. And so the stories is the story that I'm telling myself, which is true. Like, let's say somebody has a horrible past and they have alcoholic parents and they this and they did that, right? Okay, and you believe that this story, that past disqualifies you from having a life of abundance. Well, then the question I'd ask you is it serving you anymore? Because if it's not, if that story isn't serving you anymore, you know what God gave you?
Free will.
Free will. Change
Choices.
that. Change that shit. Just change it.
Yeah, you're not a tree. You can move.
That's exactly right. So the idea is we're the only creatures in the world that have 100% free will. Use that shit.
See, I don't know. I've heard that before, but I don't understand. Like, what other creatures don't have free will?
Well, we don't know. I should say we don't know if they have free will.
Well, like dogs, they do whatever the fuck they want.
To an extent.
What do you mean? They got free will. They're willing to listen to you. They're willing to lay down when you tell them to.
I can put a leash on that dog and yank it whenever I want. I can put it in a cage whenever I want. I can do things.
Someone can put a leash on you.
Not unless I want it. Not unless I let them.
Shit.
Not unless I let them.
You've never been to prison, have you?
No, I've never been to prison.
But to me, free will is the power of choice.
Correct.
At the end
That's
of the
exactly
day.
right.
So when I think of a dog, like a dog technically has a choice. I mean, I can't get in its head, but you would think, I could put meat down and a apple down, and it has a choice of what to eat. So does it have free will? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But I've heard that before, and I've always questioned, like, why are we the only ones with free will?
We're the only ones with conscious free will that we know about, obviously.
Yeah, I think.
So maybe that's a better way to say it. Maybe a better way to say it is we consciously have the ability to choose what we want. In every behavior we do, we have a choice in everything we do. But choice doesn't happen unless you have awareness, and that's the abundance problem.
Yeah, well, that to me, that's the key, because I think we all have a life of abundance. The question is are you aware of it or not?
Yeah. Are you aware that you can have a life of abundance?
Not that you can, you do. Everyone does. There's abundance around us all. We just don't recognize it. We live in these limitations.
Yeah.
Someone says, well, I don't have any money. Where's the abundance of money? Look around. There's money everywhere.
Everywhere.
Well, I don't have any. You're still in a life of abundance. There's an abundance of money. There's abundance of food. There's an abundance of love. There's an abundance of everything. Well, not for me. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
And I think the lack comes from what they're focusing on, and what they're really boils down to perspective.
Their perspective.
Their perspective is there's lack. So they're focusing on lack. Therefore, they're getting lack.
That's exactly
so
right.
If they don't realize, all you have to do is change your perspective, start focusing on abundance, And guess what? You'll start getting more.
Yeah. Great leaders, they don't fix problems. They fix perspectives. All I do is I help you see things in a different way. Because if you see things differently, I forget who said it, Wayne Dyer said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, if you want a different life, change your perspective. Look at things differently. To your point, look at the abundance differently. It is, and I'm going to get blasted for this. I get it. I think it is harder to be poor in America than it is to be rich in America. Like, there's so much money around us. If you want financial success, it's for everybody. I don't believe there are people out there that financial abundance is not capable of.
Sure, there's proof of it.
There's proof that there are people that it's not capable of it?
No, there's proof that anyone can get rich.
Anybody. So why don't they do it? There's nobody that you've met that says, no, I choose to be poor. I'm saying there are some, but not many people that I choose to be poor. They're poor because their thoughts and their beliefs limit them from seeing what's actually out there.
This foreword is by Jesse Itzler, my man Jesse.
Yeah.
Good dude, Jesse.
The best dude.
So this is like a real book.
Yeah.
Gary Vaynerchuk wrote you a thing. You got Todd Anderson. You got a lot of these big dogs on here.
Yeah.
How do you know all of these people? And where I'm going is not a lot of people have heard of you. You only have a couple thousand followers.
Yeah.
You'll probably have some more after this show, but where have you been? And how do you know all these people with the big followings?
Yeah. Yeah. I've just built, for me, I've built relationship. It's all, to me, it's, Zig Ziglar once said, you can have anything you want in this world if you help other people get what they want in this world. And for me, it's all about trying to build relationship where people want to help each other grow, contribute to the well-being. And so for me, I started a podcast, 7 years ago. And the sole goal of the podcast, and I'll be ready to be blasted on this. In 7 years, I've never once looked at the data behind it, ever. I don't know how, I'm saying literally nobody could listen to it. I don't know. And my team knows, but they know they'll get fired if they tell me. And the reason I started the podcast was because I wanted to build relationship. I needed a tool. I needed a vehicle to build a relationship with Jesse and Gary and this person and that person. And I was like, I'm reading their books. I'm following their content. How do I get around them? So I'll start a podcast and I'll ask them to be on my podcast. And I was naive. I was incompetent. I was ignorant to what actually went on in the world of how to do this. So I thought if I had a podcast and I just reach out, they'd be like, yeah, come on the podcast. I didn't realize that Gary gets probably 10,000 requests a day to be on his podcast. So I started this podcast and I got hella no's, a lot of no's. I mean, no's beyond no's beyond no's. But I say, listen, I'm not giving up on this. And I'm going to add value because where value goes, wealth follows. Value first, then wealth, not the other way around. So how can I provide value to these people? So I started subscribing to their content. I started reading their books. I joined their courses. I fully engaged in their courses. And so I go to an event and Gary Vee's there. I buy front row seats. It's a small gathering in New York City, 120 people. Gary Vee's going to be there. Jay Shetty's going to be there. This is 7 years ago. So Gary comes out and he's talking 100 people. Gary comes out, he starts talking. He comes up to me and at lunch, I'm standing at lunch and he comes up right to the table I'm at. He's like, hey, what's going on? I'm Gary. I'm Chad. We start talking. And I said, Gary, let me ask you a question. I said, how does a guy like me get you on the podcast? He goes, sometimes you just got to ask. And I said, okay, got to ask. I said, what about providing value? He said, yeah, you got to provide value, but don't forget, you got to ask. And I said, all right, what else? He said, well, you got to make sure you're seen, make sure you do this. He gives me all this. Okay, but don't forget, you got to ask. I said, all right, Gary, one day, man, I'm going to have you on my podcast. He goes, okay, and he walks away. I'm on the train going back to Baltimore. I'm like, oh man, I'm at Gary Vee. I'm like, did I ask him to be on my podcast? I never actually asked him to be on my podcast. I can't believe he told me to ask and I didn't ask. Shit the bed. So I find his next event, sign up for his next event, sign up for exclusive behind the scenes with him, spend the money. I go there and I get, Gary, you don't remember me. He goes, I know exactly who you are. He said, you're the jackass who came up to me, asked me how to have you on your podcast. La, 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 la. I told you 3 times, just ask. Just ask. I said, Gary, will you come on my podcast? He's, yeah, no problem. Set up. Here's my number. Comes on my podcast. We kill it. Once Gary's on my podcast, I found the recipe. Let me go to Jesse. Let me go to this person. And I started building a relationship. I took my film crew. We never did them virtual. Everyone was live. We created a ton of content, gave them a ton of content. We have one camera on this person. And so we started creating relationship. And all these people in my network, I started building relationships with. Everyone. I have Gary's cell phone number. I have Jesse's cell phone number. I have all
but you had money.
No, I didn't have money. I had no money. Well, I was leveraging everything.
How did you pay everybody?
I was leveraging shit. I was credit card, maxed out credit card. I was starting a company at the same time.
See, you know how many people are thinking, yeah, but you had money.
No, I had zero money.
See, that's easy for you to say, Chad, you had a crew.
No, I didn't have a crew. I had debt. I had a shit ton of debt. I had a ton of debt.
And you did it anyway.
I did it anyway because for the first time in my life, I was going to roll the dice and I was going to bet on myself.
Have you ever rolled dice?
No.
You've never went to play craps or anything?
No, it's a one game in Vegas.
You guys know how to roll dice?
I would really love to learn how to play.
Well,
craps.
just pretend you got some dice and get ready to roll the dice.
Yeah.
Now don't let it go. Just keep getting ready to. See, this is what people are doing their whole life.
Yeah.
You gotta roll the dice.
Yeah.
And that's what people never get.
Yeah.
They'll just sit there all day long and get ready. And they'll be like, oh boy, one day I'm going to roll these dice.
One day.
Yeah. And it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
See what you get?
Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Yeah.
Like
nothing. You
got to roll the dice. You rolled the dice.
Yeah. And it cost me. I probably spent, I don't know. Still to this day, I probably spend $100,000, couple $100,000 on a podcast
that you didn't have.
That I didn't have, and then I didn't look at I didn't look at the numbers. People are like, "You're an idiot." It didn't matter.
By the way, what is the name of the podcast?
Cannonball Mindset.
Cannonball Mindset, and you can find it wherever podcasts are. He brings in killer guests, goes over their, I would imagine, mindset.
Oh yeah,
what made them kick ass and successful.
Yeah,
dude, a lot of my followers want that. That's why they basically tolerate me interrupting guests and whatnot, is because they're looking for these little nuggets. So I'll bet you get a bunch more subscribers.
Most people play. I was with my cousin a couple of years ago. We're playing poker, and he had a hand, and you could tell he's young. He got this like grin ear to ear, and he goes, "I'm all in." He slides all his poker chips into the center, and he keeps his hands on the chip. He wouldn't let his hands off the chip. Because he knew that the minute he takes those hands off the chips, he's all actually in. He can still pull them out. I'm all in, but my hand's on the chips. I haven't let them up yet. I can pull them back out. Most people play their entire life with their hands on the chips. It's time to let go of those damn chips. Go all in. And so for me, it took a lot of courage and a lot of story writing to get myself to realize, man, I'm gonna take my hands off the chips. You know why? Because those chips weren't given to me. I earned those chips that I just put in. And you know what? If I lose it, I know the recipe how to get it back. I'm not afraid to lose it.
So where did you learn all the skills that you now coach and teach these companies?
From people like you, from people like Zig Ziglar, so I became a student. I didn't read my first book ever until I was 25 years old. Never read a book, not one in school, never, not one book. Because when you have a story of black, and you're a victim, why would you read a book? I was illiterate by choice. You know what's worse than being illiterate by circumstances? Being illiterate by choice. I wasn't illiterate because I couldn't read. I was illiterate because I didn't read. And so I started reading. I started following. I started watching. I started becoming a student, listening. And it wasn't just, hey, let me listen to Brad Lee and steal his shit. It was, let me listen to Brad Lee and let me decipher what it means to me. What does it mean to me? Because what it means to me might not be what it means to you, but you sparked the curiosity for me to go down the route. Oh, man, when this happens, this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And so when I speak now, when I go and work with companies or any of my trainers go and speak with companies, we just talk about what we believe. And it's not for me to tell you what to believe, but you're either going to learn something, you're going to realize something, or you're going to remember something. And all three are valuable. I want you to trip over the truth. I want you to figure things out on your own. Great leaders they're not solution providers, they're solution facilitators. They help people think differently. And that's all I want to do. And that's what people did for me. And that's what we do now is we help people think differently and see differently so they can do differently and they can have differently.
Not to mention, sometimes you're just helping people think.
Yeah.
Period.
Huge.
Because a lot of people, they're not really thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you ever heard of Keith Cunningham?
Yeah.
He wrote a book called A Road Less Stupid.
Yeah, I haven't read it, but I know.
I'd highly recommend you read it. Everyone should read that book,
okay.
especially if they're building businesses.
Yeah.
But The Road Less Stupid, dude, he sets aside time for what he calls thinking time.
Mm.
You know Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
He does he does all of his business mastery courses, and like, you know, very smart dude.
Oh, yeah.
Lost 100 million when he was 40.
Yeah.
How do you have 100 million when you're 40? And then he lost it, and now he's probably got 10 times that.
Oh, at least.
But
I was
he's
at the University of Alabama with him. The guy is genius.
Who?
Tony Robbins.
No, I'm talking about the guy Tony lets run his business.
Yeah.
Keith Cunningham.
Yeah.
He has a program called the 4-Day MBA. People have taken it and said they've learned more in that 4-day MBA than they learned during their Harvard MBA.
Really?
By far. And the guy's like, oh, without a doubt. Like Keith Cunningham's sharp. One of his main things he tries to tell people is put aside thinking time. People don't think. You think you're thinking, but you're not thinking.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, I get them to think differently. Sometimes I'll bet you're just getting them to think.
Yeah.
And that's what I try to do a lot. It's like the way I say things makes people think, what? Wait a minute. What's that? And now they're just thinking. And all of a sudden, they may not literally agree with what I said, but it kicks off what they do agree with. And all of a sudden, they find a little bit more of themselves.
Yeah. That's it. I can't tell you how many times you've said something and I'm like, I'll pause the podcast and I'm like, wait a minute. Hold on. Is that true? God, do I agree with that? Yeah, man. No, but I don't agree with it. But you know what? This is what I do think. And so that's what it is. I plant the seed. People ignore the acorn because it's not yet an oak tree. Sometimes planting the seed is more important than the oak tree itself. So can I get you? And I think that's what you do, either whether you do it consciously or not, I don't know, but you plant a shit ton of seeds. And
I just ramble mostly.
Well, it's good rambling.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm just having a conversation. Like, again, I have all these questions I could ask you, but conversation I think is better.
Yeah, much better.
Which is why I interrupt, as my people like to say. It's difficult for people to listen to shit talkers.
Yeah.
I don't care. I think that's my superpower. Like I'll hear people, dude, shut up. Let the guy talk. Whoever this host is, I can't watch this anymore. And then like 3 episodes later, they're still talking shit, watching every one of them.
As they're still watching it.
Yeah. It's like, dude, listen, this is a conversation. This isn't an interview. An interview would sound like this. All right, Chad. Well, thank you for coming. So if you had to lose everything to become who you are now, would you do it again?
Yeah. You asking that question, really?
No, not really.
Yeah,
but,
thank God.
I'm not going to interrupt now because I'm waiting for your answer.
Nobody wants to hear that. Because that answer is the same answer I'm going to give on five other podcasts.
And probably already have.
Yeah. That's I want to have a conversation where shit just comes up, but just where the conversation goes where God wants it to happen.
How about this one? Did you write this book more for the world or for the part of you that needs saving?
No, I wrote the book for one person alone, me. I wrote the book I needed. I wrote the book I needed every day. This isn't a directive of how to live your life. This is a roadmap for me because I still struggle with this every day. Every day. Listen, you know who wakes up before me? The critic. That critic it seems like the second that alarm clock goes off, the critic is already up, ready to take me out. And so that story happens every day. And every day I have a choice of whether I gave my kids a couple years ago at Christmas, I gave my kids each two notebooks. One was a blue and one was a red notebook, and they were both empty, a journal. And I said, listen, this year I want you to do me a favor. I want you to take these journals everywhere you go. The blue notebook, I want you to write down, I want you to journal all the acts of love and kindness and greatness and servitude that you see in the world. Anything great, something amazing, an act of love, I want you to write it in the blue notebook. In the red notebook, I want you to write all the acts of evil and suffering and all the bad stuff you see in the world. I want you to write everything in the bad in the red and all the good in the blue. I said, what notebook do you think you'll fill up first? One daughter, I have identical twin daughters. One daughter said, oh, the red notebook. The other daughter said, the blue notebook. I said, well, you're both right. You'll fill up whatever notebook you decide to take out of your book bag that day, in that moment. Because in life, you find what you focus on. If I want to look for the shit, I'll find the shit. I want to look for the good, I'll find the good. And so your brain is designed to find what you focus on. You just don't see that you're the designer of it. So every day I have a choice to decide what I'm going to look for. And the world is trying to distract you to look at this negative over here. Everywhere you go, everything's set up to follow the negative. You have to be strong in that. So this book was written for me. It was written for me to like, hey, remember, because now I put it out on the world. So I have to live up to this shit. Because people were ready to call you a fraud. Like, you wrote this, you don't even follow it yourself. You don't even eat your own dog food. But because I wrote it, because I put it out into the world, because I talk about it, because I give speeches about it, man, it holds me accountable to living the life that I say everybody else can live.
So what's the shit you keep telling yourself?
That I'm worthy of a life of abundance, that I have purpose in this world, and that ego stands for edging God out. It's not about God, it's about me. That's what true ego is, edging God out, EGO. Ego is not believing that you are worthy of a life of abundance. Ego is not believing. For me, I believe that there is no room in which I do not belong. Because I can walk into every room like God sent me, because he did. And if God said I can be in this room, if God can put me in this room, why am I worried about what anybody else believes whether I'm worthy of? And so for me, that to me is the story I'm telling myself.
Yeah, but don't you think you've arrived now? Why do you have to keep telling yourself that? Aren't you convinced?
Because, listen, Denzel Washington said it best at the Academy Awards a couple of years ago. It's at your very highest moment, the devil's coming for you. Your very highest moment. And I'm living my life by, every time I get to the summit, you know what I see right behind it? Another freaking mountain. I'm so just rounding first base.
Yeah, but if you know God's right behind you,
yeah,
who cares?
What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do I mean?
If God's right behind you, why do I care about what?
Who cares about anything that's going to happen?
Because God,
like you said Denzel said, when you're at the highest, the devil comes.
Yeah.
Big deal. I got my man with me. Let him come.
Because the God's not fighting the devil for you. The God doesn't give you what you want. God gives you opportunities to have what you want. He puts you in the right situation, but it's up to you. It's 100% up to you to decide. That's that free will.
Yeah, but choose God.
I do choose God.
Then what are you worried about?
I'm not worried. I'm not worried about anything.
We're talking.
I'm not worried about anything.
See, that sounds better, Chad. We're talking.
I'm not concerned about anything. You know what I'm concerned about?
What?
Is, am I living out with the full autonomy and power that was granted upon me the minute I was born? That's what I'm concerned about. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to die and I'm going to go to heaven. This is what the question's going to be asked. Did you live out your purpose? Did you live to the fullest potential? Did you use all the gifts that were bestowed upon you? Did you use them all? Did you grow them all? Did you contribute?
What would you say if you died right now?
I would say right now, no.
What more do you got in the tank?
I don't know.
What's holding you back?
This is what I know. This is what I know. I have God gave me an unlimited size toolbox. I can spend my entire life filling that toolbox with tools and it will never get filled. So from now until the moment I leave this earth, I'm going to be committed to trying to figure out how can I get better. I haven't reached a limit yet, so I don't know. I used to think if I could just get on the plane and fly center seat coach, man, that'd be good enough. And then I was like, oh my gosh, guess what? I moved up to premium select. Man, you know what? Oh my God, I moved up to first class. And I'm not talking about physically planes. I'm talking about how I live my life. Most people are living coach, believing they're in first class. You haven't even, you don't know.
And they don't even know first class isn't even first class.
Right. And then I flew private and I was like, oh, shit. What? How do I do this? And again, I'm not just talking, I'm using that as a metaphor. I'm talking about, you think you're a great father? There's a whole nother level to how great you can be as a father. You think you're a great husband? There's a whole nother level. You think that the minute you think you've arrived, you'll be humbled really quick.
Yeah, but being certain isn't necessarily arriving.
No, being certain is a dangerous thing.
You think?
Oh my gosh. Certainty is the killer of curiosity.
Maybe that's why I'm so dangerous.
Certainty is the killer of curiosity. The minute I'm so certain about something, I'm no longer curious about it. And the only way for you not to grow is stop being curious.
What's the difference between that and confidence?
Confidence is I have data to prove. Confidence without data is delusion. I have data to prove that what I'm doing is giving me success. That's confidence. But arrogance is thinking, I'm so certain that I've arrived. That's arrogance. You haven't.
Well, arrived where?
I've reached the pinnacle of what I can achieve.
Well,
what I can be.
You'll never do that.
Never. That's the goal.
There's always more.
There's always more. But
Yeah.
most people don't believe that.
Yeah, but isn't it okay eventually to like sit back and say, "Hey, I'm good." Like I do think. I mean, there's more, of course.
Yeah.
But I do think now I am aware.
Yeah.
I am aware that it is up to me. I'm aware that it's my responsibility. It's my fault, no matter what it is.
That's right.
I realize that it's my choice, and I use it every day. To my chagrin,
Yeah.
I didn't know it when I was 20.
Yeah.
Like if I'm listening to this show, 20 years old, if they understand what this book's about, and everyone should get the book, but at the end of the day, if I knew that I could have wrote my story from day one, I didn't know I had to go through all that hard time bullshit, but I didn't know what I didn't know.
You didn't know what you didn't know.
But now I do.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think I can't do any better, but I know that now. And so now I'm certain in that life is abundant. I'm also certain that it's abundant for everyone. And even if they aren't aware of it yet, because it's not that they don't have abundance. Abundance is everywhere.
It's everywhere.
They're not aware of it.
Correct.
So imagine if you were, for example, hungry as hell. Your kids are starving and you don't understand what a refrigerator is. And there's 2 Sub-Zeros fully stacked with food and you're sitting there literally starving and you're thinking life's terrible when all you have to do is open that damn refrigerator and there's everything you want right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's there. You just
it's
don't know.
all there.
You just don't know. And listen, I know there's going to be people that are going to chirp on this or push back on this and saying, Chad, you don't understand my situation.
They all do.
They all do. I get it. I was that guy. I was that guy. And there's times where I can still find myself like slipping back there, like being that guy. Like I catch myself.
Let's compare sob stories.
Yeah.
Okay. So you start with something that was some sad story of yours.
A sad story. I didn't go to college.
I didn't go to high school.
Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. I didn't have a father.
I didn't have a mother.
I never read a book until I was 25.
I didn't read a book till I was 40.
There's always a worse story.
I'm telling you the truth.
Right.
I started reading around 40. Coincidentally, I started getting rich around 45.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like, dude, me and you have very similar stories, but opposite. But in my mind, I've almost like rationalized, like I thought that's what everyone went through.
Yeah, that's just what we thought.
Yeah, like you didn't have a dad. I didn't have a mom.
Yeah.
So, but people are like, oh, you're so unlucky. And I'm like thinking to myself, I thought everyone was like that, other than the Beaver Cleaver families. Like my wife, she's got a Beaver Cleaver family.
Yeah.
Perfect family. I got the best in-laws. Like dad,
That's
nicer than hell.
Yeah.
Mom went to all of her things, and I'm thinking, oh my God, your mom went to all your dances and shit.
Yeah.
She liked it. It was like that Beaver Cleaver family.
That was her perspective.
I've never met anyone with a perfect family.
Yeah.
I don't think those exist.
No, they don't.
My wife's does.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't. My wife has a pretty close to that, but yeah, I don't think there's a perfect family. That's for sure. But
well, my wife's it. Well, again, they're not perfect, but you know what I mean. That's the family everybody wants.
Yeah.
But guess what? she's more fucked up than I am. Like
I want to edit that version out.
No, I'll tell her. Hey, and I have told her, but it's not in a bad way. In other words, like, you know, she was very worried about what everybody thought. Why? Because her mom's very, you know, prim and proper, and everything has to be perfect, or we're not going to be, you know, looked at. And, you know, a lot of people, like, you think having a dad would have been awesome. Yeah. Sometimes, even if you have the dad, it wouldn't have been awesome.
That's exactly
maybe he'd have been a weird dad.
Yeah.
Maybe he would have touched you. You
maybe
never know.
Beat me. Yeah. Maybe it would beat me. Maybe he would have been alcoholic. I don't know.
But look at the result. You didn't have one, and yet look at yourself. Yeah. I didn't have, you know, when I say I didn't have a mom, I did. She was a stepmom. And again, I was her favorite kid, but irrelevant. The point is I really did drop out of high school, 11th grade. I mean, I could say I have a sad story, but guess what? I don't really think it was sad at all.
Yeah. I look back on it now, and I don't think it was bad at all, but in the moment.
You didn't know anybody that had a divorced parent?
No.
All your friends had their parents?
Yeah. All my friends, like people around me, they just, and maybe they did, and I just didn't see it. Like I didn't recognize it because Sue wrapped up in my own sad, somber story.
Were you like boo-hoo, poor me the whole time?
I was.
What snapped you out of it?
I had a shift moment, and shift stands for see how I find truth. See how I find truth. That's what shift stands for me. And I had a shift moment where I met my wife, and I think we have these shift moments all the time. God puts us in opportunities to see things differently, to change our perspective. And so my whole life I hadn't seen things differently, and I meet my wife. And we go on a date, and it was the worst date in the history of dating. It could not have been any worse, right? And she was going to 2 different universities full time at the same time for 2. She was getting her law degree and her PhD. My wife is a psychologist and a lawyer. She's the most brilliant woman you'll ever meet.
Doctor too.
Doctor and a lawyer. Same time.
You know, a lawyer's technically a doctor of law.
Is that true? Juris Doctor. Yeah. So she's a doctor of psychology and has her law degree. And she did it both at the same time. We go on a date, and we're sitting at this dinner, and she didn't drink, she didn't party, she read, she was focused on all these things. And so I blew her off. I never, like I said I was going to call her, I never called her. I just went back to drinking and partying and being an idiot and not going anywhere in life. 2 months later, I run into her. I didn't even remember her name. And I said, hey, how's your summer going? She goes, it was great. Let me tell you about the highlight. I went out to dinner with this jackass. He said he was going to call, and he never called. And I immediately remembered where I knew her from. And by the grace of God, I said, what a jackass. I said, let me make up for that guy and let me buy you a drink. And I don't know why she said yes, but she said yes. And I got up, and we would start talking. I get up to go to the bathroom or something, get another drink. And it was probably after two and a half hours. I look back at her, and for some reason, like I had this thought in my mind. Like, what are you doing? Here's a woman who's driven, motivated. You believe her to be out of your league, so you're just going to blow her off. Don't do that shit. Just don't do it. And she was living in Philadelphia. I was living in Baltimore. And I went back and I said, hey, can I take you to dinner on Wednesday night? And I drove to Philadelphia. And then I drove to Philadelphia again. And she never once, in the 25 years we've been married, never once told me I needed to change. Never once told me that I was broken. I just followed her. I was like, man, I want more of that. And so she was reading, so I started reading. So the shift moment was like, invest in yourself. She wasn't trying to fix me in any way, shape, or form. She never even told me I was broken. She just was investing in herself. Like, and then to your point, I started reading books. And you know what happened when I started reading books?
You started thinking.
I started thinking. And then I started thinking, and I started communicating differently. And I became more emotionally intelligent, and I was having different conversations, which means I was attracting different people. And I started and all of a sudden, things were happening. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I wanted more of it. And then I wanted more of it. And I was like, I got the recipe. Invest in yourself, believe in yourself, love yourself, and great things will happen. If you walk in our hallway, in our office, you walk in, and there's what we call the gut punch photo. There's one photo of me as a kid. I look miserable. I'm saying it's in my Little League baseball. Everybody's got a hat on, the uniforms, I have no hat on. I'm looking down and look miserable. And for some reason, I find this photo, and it hangs on my wall. And underneath of it, it says who I was. You walk a couple steps further, and there's a portrait of me finishing one of the 54 marathons I've run. and I'm smiling, I'm abundant. I'm like, the world is just like, you could tell this guy is happy and in love with himself. And underneath it says who I am. Walk a couple of feet further, and there's a picture of my shadow on an early morning run. I just snapped it real quick. And it said, underneath this plaque says who I'm becoming. The single greatest day of my life is when I learned to love every version of that. I love who I am today. I'm obsessed with who I'm becoming. I have gratitude for who I am. And so for me, it's about understanding that all versions of those led me to where I am today. And once you make peace with that, once you identify that you can love yourself at a level greater than you can love any individual in this world, the world will start tilting in your favor.
And should. If you ask me.
Yeah.
You should love yourself. Most people don't realize that. When you say that, people are like, huh?
Yeah.
That's arrogant. That's so
arrogant.
conceited.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what do you want me to do? Hate myself?
Yeah, that's right. Well, if I asked the average human being, if I said, give me 5 things you love in this world, you would not even make the list. You would not write yourself. And so at what point would you have kids? You have
7.
kids, 7 kids. What's the youngest one's name?
Chloe.
And how old is Chloe?
3.
At what point will you have the conversation with Chloe? And the conversation being this: listen, Chloe, you're an adult now, or you're becoming an adult. And at some point, it's not about you anymore. It's about you. It's about you making everybody else a priority and not you. It's about you loving everybody else more than you love yourself. Put your husband before yourself. Put your kids before yourself.
Never.
You'll never have that conversation. Why?
Because that's not the right thing to do.
That's not the right thing to do. But we live that out every day.
I don't.
Yeah. Humans do. Humans do. You ask my kids today, who does your father put first? You know what they'll say?
What?
Himself.
And they'll say, rightly so.
They'll say, you know why? Because if I can show up fully for myself, then I'm a better father, which means I'm better for them.
That's right.
But what people say, well, listen, I can't go work out because of my kids. I can't invest because I got kids to raise. You know what you're doing? You're learning to resent your children and blame your failures on your children because they're the ones stopping you from living the life you want to live. No, you're using them as a scapegoat.
That's right.
Invest in yourself, love yourself, and teach your kids to love themselves.
Yeah, and if you love them so much as you claim, that is what you would do also, because the best version of you is what you would give them if you truly loved them.
That's exactly
And the only way to do that is to put yourself first.
Yeah.
Just like, lions eat first.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a book or something, but basically the rule is, the king eats first. Oh, that's selfish king. Not really, because if the king dies, you're all dead.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Put yourself first. And that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. Because I don't do it in spite of my kids. I do it for my kids. I do it for my employees. What am I going to, I'm going to show my employees that I'm going to put myself last so then I can show up half-assed for them. No, I'm going to put myself first, and I want you to put yourself first. Not in spite of, but because of. Yeah.
Amen. See? Folks, this thing was littered with bombs. I didn't drop them all, but I know you've heard them all. At the end of the day, what's this book going to teach somebody?
It's going to teach them to be the author of their story, be the author of their life. How to do it. And
give them tactical ways to take control and start waking up and becoming aware. Because to me, it's awareness. It's a lack of awareness.
That's right. Become aware, understand they have choice. And it's not just this. In every chapter, I recommend 3 books. I recommend books that I read. I'm like, hey, go read this book on this. Go follow
what
this
is your
person.
top 3 books of all time?
Oh, well, I'm going to leave the Bible out. But I think that for me, I wanted 3 other books. Number 1 is The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger.
Yeah, I've never even heard of that.
Everybody talks about Man's Search for Meaning. Man's Search for Meaning is a great book. It pales in comparison to The Choice by Dr. Edith Eger. One of the most important books any human being can ever read is for me is The Choice. There's no question about that.
By Dr. Edith
Eger. Yep. I think it's better. I think it's better than Man's Search for Meaning for me. I'm going to get a ton of hate for this next book. But I think one of the most important books I ever read was Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights.
I read that one.
So good. So good. It was a book.
All right.
It was a book just littered with amazing things to make you think, to make you go, oh, man, is that true? Is that really true? And the third one is I used the 4 questions earlier, comes from this book by a lady named Byron Katie, Dr. Byron Katie, and it's a book called Loving What Is. Loving What Is.
Those are your 3 best?
Yeah, I don't know if they're on my Mount Rushmore. That's for sure. There's other ones. I think Jesse's Living with Seal is a great motivation book. I think the books.
I already have Loving What Is, coincidentally. I just haven't listened to it.
Oh, so good. So good. Because I think the quality of your life is predicated on the questions you ask yourself. You ask yourself better questions, you have a better life. You ask yourself shitty questions. Most people ask themselves why questions. Why me? Why can't I? Why can't I? That's the victim. Why is a victim question. Anytime you hear the word why come out of somebody's mouth, it's victim related. The quality of your life is predicated.
Is that what that book says?
No, that's what I just said. The quality of your life is predicated on the questions you ask yourself. Most people ask themselves shitty questions. This Loving What Is forces you to ask yourself better questions.
Well, what's wrong with why?
Because why is a victim question?
Not necessarily.
Most of the time. Just listen to it. Listen to when people use the word why.
Well, it depends,
Give me a way you ask yourself a why question.
Like, why should I read that book?
Why should I read that book? Right? So why shouldn't you read the book? To me, that question is I'm trying to justify.
Don't answer a question with a question.
I'm trying to justify reading the book. Just read the damn book.
Well, I know, but I don't like being told what to do.
I know you don't, right?
So why should I read the book?
That's not a victim question. So let's do a Chris Voss exercise. Chris Voss wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. Best negotiation book ever written. So he talks about calibrated questions. I live in the what and how, not the why.
Well, I like how question better than anything.
Yeah.
I always teach people, hey, instead of saying if, it's how. It's not if you can get rich. It's how can you get rich.
It's a solution.
You're asking the wrong question. I agree with, but I didn't understand the why victim thing.
So again,
because I ask why, because I'm interested. I'm curious.
Okay, so ask me a why. Ask me a why question.
Okay, why did you write that book?
So now humans have a bias against the word why. The word why is we take it as a judgment question. When somebody asks us a why question, we believe the answer is going to be judged. So we give you a defensive answer. Calibrated questions, the how questions you talk about, the what and how are calibrated questions.
I don't need to know how you wrote the book. I want to know why you wrote the book.
Ask me the same question, but ask it in a what and how way. What or how?
What in the how did you write the book for?
What was the reason? What drove you to write the book? What was the reason you wrote this book? It's going to be received much differently. So instead of asking myself why, which you're right, there's certainly some questions you can ask that dodge the judgment. But if I say, hey, how can I figure out how to make abundance? How can I figure out what's the way to become more successful? What's the reason? I'm in solution. What and how is always solution. There's always growth questions. Why can be growth, can be discovery, but it's not as powerful as the what and how. So I live
like the what and the how.
I live in the what and the how. Don't talk to me about why. Talk to me about what and how. Because what and how is always solution based. It's always forward thinking.
So if I'm a organization that has a sales team and I'm interested in bringing you in, I mean, how big is your agency? Can you handle a bunch more business?
Yeah, tons.
And you're going to go in there and work on my sales team and my leadership team. What do you think the first rule of quality leadership is?
First rule of quality leadership for me is be curious. Great leaders ask great questions. So many people are wanting to tell you what to think. Don't tell me what to think. Teach me how to think. And so what happens is leaders want to hear themselves talk. If you want to ask me what the greatest quality of a leader is, it's curiosity. They're curious. They're going to ask you great questions. It's going to make you think for yourself. They're not going to give you the answer. So great leaders ask great questions. And the second part of it is great leaders think differently.
What do you think your specialty is? Sales training?
No. I think we're really good at sales training. I think our secret sauce, and I shouldn't say secret sauce because it's not a secret, I'm saying it here, right? But I think what makes us different is that we embed embed ourselves with the culture to where we really affect change in the people. Most people don't do that.
If you haven't lost a client in 9 years and you have 125, like that's pretty good.
Yeah, listen, 9 years ago we didn't have 125. We've acquired more. So
yeah, but it means you're doing something right.
Yeah, and we meet with them every week.
Well, you're about to acquire more because I know people listen to the show. They're trying to grow and strive, and they can tell authenticity when they hear it. Yeah. And you've got that. You got a book out. Keep telling yourself. I know people are going to buy the book. But I know you hate the why questions, but my question for the listeners is, why would I hire Cannonball?
Why would you hire Cannonball?
Why would I hire you?
Because we've gotten to a point in our business, we've gotten a point to our people where they seem stuck, And we can't put our finger on it. We don't know what it is, but it seems like we're on this threshold that we just can't cross through. We just can't break through. And we keep giving them the skills. We keep giving them more skills and skills and skills and skills and skills and skills. We give them more tools, but we can't seem to break through. And the difference is, yeah, you can give people tons of tools, but every tool needs an operator. And if the operator doesn't believe the tool is going to work, if the operator doesn't believe they're worthy of operating the tool, all the skills in the world don't matter. Now, skills matter. You got to have the skills.
So what will that result in once you accomplish that for these organizations?
You'll see a shift. You'll see a breakthrough. You'll see a breakthrough where we're no longer coaching to goals. We're coaching to capabilities. We're no longer coaching to metrics. We're coaching to what are we capable of? What is our potential? And if people just worked to their potential, well, what stops people from working from their potential? Some limiting belief, some story that's not serving them. Teach people to change their story, they change their life. They change their life, they change the company's life.
Okay, so last question. I've heard you say your origin story is what made you write this book, okay? But there's one part of that story that you don't really share publicly. What is it?
So I don't really share it publicly. I'm going to share it publicly now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the story that I don't talk about a lot. Certainly people that know me in my circle know about my story. But it's that story with my father that I've alluded to, that I walked around with, and I believed it to be true for a number of years. So
what was it?
So I believed it's the stupidest story in hindsight, but the most powerful story that's ever changed my trajectory of my life. So when I was 5, and I'm gonna lose people here, but when I was not even 5, I was 4. I get a Christmas present from my father, and it was I'm a lot older. I think I'm older than you. I think I'm older than most people in this room.
You're not older than me.
But I think I am. But there was a story. So there was a thing called Good Humor ice cream trucks. Do you remember Good Humor?
Sure.
This was before the ice cream truck driver was creepy. This was like when the ice cream truck driver was cool, and you'd hear the bell and you'd go running like, Mom, the ice cream truck. And you chase down the ice cream truck. Well, my parents gave me think about it like a big wheel, but it was a Good Humor ice cream truck. And so it had an outfit, it had the conductors, this is where they actually wore uniforms, and you could put ice cream in it. And man, that thing was like, that was my thing. That was my jam. My father would for years tell me, for a while, tell me as a kid as I remember to be, stop leaving your ice cream truck in the driveway. I would drive this thing around all over the neighborhood. One day he comes home and he runs the shit over. The next day, my grandfather's in our house in New York. All of our stuff is packed up. We leave. I never see my father again. Origin story, victim story. I have no father. I have this guy who on purpose taught me a lesson by running over this ice cream truck. I told you not to leave it there. Don't leave it there. It's going to get run over. Exactly what he said was going to happen. So it starts this whole victim, my entire life was just victim mentality, all based off of this situation. I go to my grandfather's funeral. I run into him, go home. I said, Mom, he wasn't what I thought. She said, what do you think? I said, well, he ran over this ice cream truck to teach me a lesson. You got pissed, got divorced the next day. Like, you literally left the next day. I never saw him again. And she goes, yeah, that shit never happened. And she said, he did run over your ice cream truck. Yeah. She said, but there was no Amazon back then. He went to look to try to buy it. He couldn't find it anywhere. He was 21 years old. And by the way, we didn't leave for 6 months after that happened. And that divorce was well in the works, well before that ice cream truck incident. And so that's when I realized my entire life had been built on a lie. My entire premise, my entire existence of who I was built on a lie created by a 5-year-old kid. And so that was the story that I don't share publicly, because it's one of those things that's I don't want to say it's embarrassing, but it's one of those things that I look back in hindsight and I can't believe I dictated my entire life by something a 5-year-old created. A 5-year-old created that didn't know what he didn't know. Fast forward 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I come home, and my wife and kids say, Dad, come into the conservatory. So I walk into the conservatory, and sitting there is that ice cream truck. Somehow they went and found it after all these years. And
did you get all teary-eyed?
I did. Yeah, I was struggling. I was struggling to hold together. They have it on video. I was struggling to hold together.
Yeah,
right?
That's one of those good cries. I said men shouldn't cry. That's one you're expected to if it really touches you.
And I couldn't believe that my entire existence was created on a story that a 5-year-old kid had. And now I look at that ice cream truck. It hangs in our office now. You walk in our office, it's on a wall in our office. And it's a reminder to me every single day that just because I believe something to be true doesn't actually make it true. And is the truth that I'm telling myself, is it serving me at my very highest level? And I look at that ice cream truck as a symbol that at any point you want, you can fact check your stories. Ask yourself, are they serving to your very highest level? And if you don't like it, if it's not serving you, change it. Just change your story, change your life.
Folks, keep telling yourself, go get it. If you guys are interested in growing your team beyond just sales metrics, Cannonball, is it cannonball.com?
Yeah, Cannonball Moments.
Cannonballmoments.com. You guys can follow him. Now, are you at Sanschagrin.Chad or Sanschagrin Chad? What is your Instagram?
Sanschagrin_Chad.
Okay, and guys, it sounds just like it sounds. Sanschagrin. So SANSCHAGRIN, Chad Sanschagrin. You guys can find him. Go get the 3 books and his. And, folks, everything he said is, to me, like obvious only because I had to learn it. I'm older than you. How old are you?
51.
Yeah, I'm older than you.
Are you?
Way older. Anyway, till next time, folks, keep shit real. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, brother.